The night was dark and heavy, casting a gloomy shroud over the grocery store where I toiled away during the lonely graveyard shift. The incessant humming of the fluorescent lights provided an eerie soundtrack to my mundane tasks as I restocked shelves, trying to keep myself busy and awake. Working nights had its own eerie charm, but this particular night would etch itself into my memory in a way I couldn't have imagined. The clock struck midnight, and an unsettling chill swept through the store, making me shiver despite the warm, stale air. I had just finished arranging a display of cereal boxes when a loud thud echoed from the entrance. My heart skipped a beat, and I turned toward the sound, my pulse quickening. A figure emerged from the shadows, silhouetted by the dim light outside. My heart pounded harder when I saw the glint of a shotgun in the stranger's hand. Panic surged through me, freezing me in place as the intruder's eyes bore into mine. "Empty the cash register." The man's voice was hoarse and desperate, his breath visible in the cold air. I fumbled, my hands shaking as I struggled to comply. My mind raced, thoughts colliding like runaway freight trains. I had heard stories of night shifts gone wrong, but I never thought I'd become one of them. The register popped open, and I frantically started pulling out bills, trying not to meet the robber's gaze. As I handed over the cash, the store's dim lights flickered, casting erratic shadows that danced around the aisle. The shotgun-wielding man's face contorted, a mix of anger and anxiety etched onto his features. The entire scene took on an otherworldly quality, like a nightmare bleeding into reality. With the money in hand, the man backed away, his gaze still locked on me. I took a shaky step back, my mind reeling as I realized I was alone with an armed robber. The lights flickered again, and in the momentary darkness the man vanished. It was as if he had melted into the night, swallowed by the shadows themselves. The oppressive silence that followed was broken by distant sirens. Relief washed over me as the sound grew closer, and soon enough the police burst through the entrance, guns drawn. The store was suddenly a flurry of activity, as officers secured the scene and took my statement. As the adrenaline started to ebb away, a profound sense of unease settled in. Who was that man? How had he vanished like that? The store, once a mundane and familiar place, now felt tainted by the lingering fear. Days turned into weeks, and the incident faded from the headlines. Life returned to a semblance of normalcy, but the memory of that night remained with me, an unsettling itch at the back of my mind. I could still hear the hum of the fluorescent lights, still feel the weight of the shotgun's gaze on me. Then, one day as I walked to my car after another exhausting night shift, I spotted a note stuck under my windshield wiper. My heart raced as I unfolded it, and a shiver ran down my spine as I read the words scrawled in jagged handwriting. "You saw me in the shadows. Don't think you're safe." Fear rekindled in my chest, a cold flame that refused to be extinguished. The memory of that night had taken on a life of its own, and the boundary between reality and nightmare had blurred irreversibly. In the end, the police did catch the robber. He was eventually apprehended, and the stolen money was recovered. But for me, the horror lingered, a constant reminder that darkness can hold secrets beyond imagination, and that sometimes, the true terrors are the ones that can't be explained or easily forgotten. The graveyard had always held an eerie allure, but I never anticipated that it would become my nightly haunt. My name is James, and I found myself working as a security guard in this graveyard, guarding the eternal slumber of the departed. It seemed a straightforward job, deter vandals, ensure peace for the dead, but it would soon unravel into a tale of darkness beyond imagination. The reason for security was macabre yet simple. There were groups that saw fresh graves as an opportunity for ill-gotten gains. As I patrolled the silent grounds, my footsteps echoing in the darkness, I often mused about the twisted minds that would stoop so low. The pale moonlight painted the tombstones in an eerie glow, casting elongated shadows that seemed to whisper secrets to anyone who would listen. It was on one moonlit night that my mundane routine was shattered. My flashlight illuminated a group of figures in hooded cloaks, huddled around a freshly dug grave. My heart raced as I watched, hidden in the shadows, as they drew sinister symbols and chanted in a language that felt like an affront to the natural order. As their voices rose to a crescendo, an otherworldly energy seemed to coalesce above the grave. A shiver ran down my spine as a vortex of darkness formed, spewing tendrils of black smoke that snaked across the ground. I couldn't tear my eyes away, paralyzed by fear and fascination. Then, from the heart of the vortex, a presence emerged, a shadowy figure with eyes that glowed like embers in the dark. The air grew heavy with malevolence, and I felt an indescribable dread as the figure surveyed its surroundings. It was a demon, a creature born of the darkest depths, and its gaze seemed to pierce through my very soul. "Who dares summon me?" its voice echoed, its words like a symphony of nightmares. I cowered in the shadows, my heart pounding like a drum. My mind raced, trying to comprehend the unearthly horror unfolding before me. It was as if the boundary between worlds had been torn apart, and I was caught in the crossfire. For nights on end, I would catch glimpses of the shadowy entity, like a phantom haunting the periphery of my vision. Its presence weighed on my sanity, and I found sleep elusive, plagued by haunting dreams and whispering voices that seemed to emerge from the very ground itself. I was a prisoner of my own fear, trapped between the living and the realm of the damned. In my desperation, I sought solace in the form of Father Michael, a local priest known for his unwavering faith and spiritual prowess. I confessed my harrowing experiences, my voice quivering as I recounted the horrors that had plagued me. The priest's expression grew somber, his gaze steady as he listened. "Dark forces can be summoned by the depraved desires of humanity," he said, his voice a soothing balm to my troubled mind. "But fear not, for the light of faith can drive away even the darkest shadows." One fateful night, Father Michael accompanied me to the graveyard. The air was thick with anticipation, the very atmosphere charged with an otherworldly energy. As the priest began to recite ancient incantations and prayers, the ground seemed to tremble, and the darkness retreated in the face of his unwavering conviction. A battle of wills ensued, the priest's voice clashing with the entity's unearthly cries. The night became a symphony of light and darkness, a struggle between the earthly and the infernal. With a final resolute chant, Father Michael unleashed a blinding burst of light that engulfed the shadowy figure. The entity let out a guttural scream that pierced the night, its form contorting and writhing as if in agony. The vortex of darkness collapsed in on itself, and with a rush of wind, the entity was banished, leaving behind only a fading echo of its malevolent presence. As the graveyard returned to its somber stillness, Father Michael's gaze met mine, a mixture of compassion and understanding in his eyes. "Fear not, James," he said softly. "The forces of darkness may intrude, but they can never extinguish the light that burns within us." From that night on, the graveyard felt different, quieter, more peaceful. The memory of the encounter would forever haunt my dreams, a reminder of the thin veil that separates our world from the unknown. Yet with the presence of Father Michael's faith, I found solace, knowing that even in the darkest of places, the light of hope can shine. I had always been a night type of guy, relishing the solitude and eerie stillness that came with the darkness. So when I landed a job as the lone attendant at a gas station on the outskirts of town, working the night shift seemed like the perfect fit. Little did I know that my love for the night would soon turn into a living nightmare. As I settled into my routine, the gas station became my sanctuary. The night sky stretched above me like an inky canvas, adorned with stars that shimmered like distant beacons. The hum of the gas pumps and the distant rumble of passing cars were the only sounds that punctuated the silence. One fateful night, an eerie mist rolled in, shrouding the station in an unsettling haze. I dismissed it as a regular occurrence, a product of the temperature drop. But as the night wore on, the mist seemed to thicken, creeping towards the station like ghostly fingers. Unease gnawed at the pit of my stomach, but I pushed it aside, reminding myself that I was safe inside the well-lit station. I flipped through a dog-eared magazine, trying to distract myself from the creeping dread that encircled me like a noose. At the stroke of midnight, the gas station's lights flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. My heart skipped a beat, but I brushed it off as a mere power surge. However, my confidence waned when I noticed the mist had now enshrouded the gas pumps, distorting their shapes into grotesque forms. A chill ran down my spine as I stepped outside to investigate, only to be met with an unnatural cold that seemed to permeate my bones. My breath hung in the air like ghostly apparitions, and a sense of impending doom gnawed at my soul. That's when I heard it, a faint whisper that seemed to echo from all directions. At first I thought it was my imagination playing tricks on me, but the voice grew louder, its words indecipherable yet filled with malice. My heart raced as I retreated back into the station, locking the door behind me. I checked the security cameras, half expecting to see an intruder, but there was nothing, just the thick mist that now cloaked the entire area. As I tried to regain my composure, a loud banging erupted from outside, followed by blood-curdling screams. I rushed to the window, my heart pounding in my chest, and saw the mist swirling around something, or someone. A figure emerged from the fog, its features obscured by the haze. Fear paralyzed me as I watched the figure approach the station. Its footsteps were heavy and deliberate, each thud echoing through the night like a death knell. I hid behind the counter, praying that whatever was out there would go away. But the figure had other plans. It pressed its face against the window, its eyes piercing the darkness with a malevolent glint. Its mouth twisted into a sinister grin, revealing rows of sharp, jagged teeth. I recoiled in horror, certain that I was facing something otherworldly. As the night wore on, the station became a battleground between me and the encroaching darkness. The figure prowled outside, taunting me with its haunting whispers, while the mist seemed to seep through the walls, suffocating me with its cold embrace. In a desperate attempt to escape, I considered calling for help, but when I reached for my phone, I discovered it was dead. The battery drained inexplicably. Panic set in, and I realized that I was completely cut off from the outside world. I huddled in the corner, my heart pounding like a drum. The station's lights flickered, and the whispers grew louder, melding with the sinister laughter of the figure outside. I felt as though I was losing my grip on reality, trapped in a nightmarish limbo. Just as I was ready to succumb to the terror, a faint glimmer of hope appeared on the horizon. The first rays of dawn. The mist began to dissipate, and the figure retreated into the shadows, leaving me trembling in the wake of its malevolence. With the rising sun came a sense of relief, but the memory of that night would forever haunt me. I quit my job at the gas station, vowing never to return to that accursed place. The encounter had opened my eyes to the existence of something beyond the realm of the living, something ancient, malevolent, and utterly terrifying. To this day, I wonder if what I experienced was a mere hallucination, or if I had stumbled upon a portal to a realm of darkness. One thing is for certain, the night shift at that gas station was no ordinary job, and the horrors that unfolded have left an indelible mark on my soul. From that night on, I've learned to fear the dark, for who knows what other unspeakable terrors may lurk within its depths.